All right, we're going to get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to our celebration of clean water here at the beautiful Forum Theater in Binghamton, New York. Very happy to be here. We're the presenting organization is the Finger Lakes Clean Waters Initiative, and we're very, very happy to be here. Very happy to welcome Natalie Merchant, Sandra Steingraber, and the Horseflies to the show this evening. I'd also like to, I've got a few thanks here. I'd like to thank Brewery Omagong and Damiani Wine Cellars for sponsoring this reception, and we're really happy that they were able to give us a hand here. And two very sustainable, successfully commercial businesses in New York dedicated to preserving the clean water that helps to produce their products. We'd also like to thank Community Energy, who donated 10 megawatts of wind energy tonight to this show. And that translates to 7 tons of CO2. So I don't know if we're quite carbon neutral, but we're getting close for this show tonight. So this show this evening is being powered by wind. And so thanks to the Community Energy for that donation. Without further ado, this is the mayor's reception for Sandra Steingraber. And ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mayor Matt Ryan.
Thank you very much, and it's really my pleasure to be here tonight with so many people who have put so much effort into making sure that people understand the realities of hydrofracking. You know, back in 2008, somebody who, David Patterson, he saw, he saw that this was a very dangerous industry. He didn't have anything to lose. There was no power that he had to worry about. He did the right thing. He put in place a moratorium. And we've been fighting ever since to keep that moratorium in place and to make sure that the draft S-Geis is completely scrapped and goes back to square one because it's totally deficient. And thanks to all the people who have been fighting that battle, all the people who have testified, all the people have put so many hours in, and it's you go out in the lobby, there's so many groups set up out there. We know the truth about this industry. We cannot let it come into our community. Our friends are here from Dimmick, PA tonight, and we've gone down there and seen what's happened to their community. And just last week, all of a sudden, in Franklin Township, right the other side of Montrose, on Route 29, where all the fracking's happening there, all the people started showing up at the Franklin Township meeting. Go out and see that video in the vestibule out there. It's really scary. There's no way that this industry has ever had a safe practice, and we need to stop them from coming into New York. So I would like to thank a few other people tonight. Judy Robolati and her friends who did this amazing decoration. Let's give her a hand. And we have a lot of people. It takes a lot of people to put on a show like this. And the Finger Lakes Clean Water Initiative is sponsoring this show. They've made it their mission to go all around the state and have music events like this, bring us together so we can raise some money and continue to educate people in our communities. And there'll be more events this summer. And thanks to the Finger Lakes Clean Water Initiative for all their work. Thank you. Thanks to NIRAD and like I said, all our friends from Pennsylvania who really, unfortunately, are going through the vestiges of this industry and learning firsthand that their water is being destroyed, that their neighbors are fighting against them. These people were they sold in, they leased their land. They were all for this industry until their water got destroyed. And that's what this is really all about. And that's why it's such a pleasure to introduce tonight Dr. Sandra Steingraber, who's a biologist and a poet. And the poet part of it is very important. Biologist obviously is very important, but Naomi Klein spoke of Sandra's work as being infused with fierce love and hard science. So she has that, both of those things combined, and she has a passion for this work because she understands the science behind it. She understands how fragile our ecosystem is, our biosphere, and she understands how compromised it has been. We do not need another exotic drilling industry to ruin it even more than it's been ruined. We've been through that all in our community. We've seen what's happened in IBM. We've seen what happened with all the industries that have polluted, all the brown fields we have that we still haven't cleaned up in this area. We don't want that legacy to be for our children in the future. We're starting to clean up those sites. We don't want any more sites that we have to clean up. And Sandra is the kind of person who can really make those connections. I've seen her silence a room at a big music event by the way she talks about how, you know, they want us to believe that going way, way down in the earth, we shouldn't even have to worry about it. Well, Sandra can say it much better than I, and she will explain, I think, tonight how dangerous it is to have that attitude. So thank you. So it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Sandra, who's the winner of the prestigious Heinz Award in 2011. And she won quite a bit of money, but she's donating it all back, and she'll talk about that tonight. Some of it went to the Finger Lakes Clean Water Initiative that made this concert possible tonight. She's a past Ms. Magazine Woman of the Year. She's the author of Raising Elijah, Protecting Our Children in an Age of an Environmental Crisis. Thank you so much for all that you're doing, and thank you for coming tonight and being part of this great celebration. So tonight, let's listen to Sandra, let's educate ourselves, let's celebrate the music and all we're working hard, but then we got to get back to work because this fight is far from over. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. From the best mayor in America. Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah. So, I have strong feelings about the Marcellus Shale, and I feel like they're based on evidence. So for the last 2 years or so, I've been intensely involved in looking at the public health effects of horizontal hydrofracking. And wrote something about that in Raising Elijah. We'll write more about it in my next book. But I am, as Mayor Ryan implied, also interested in the shale below our feet as an ecosystem. And the more I talk to my readers and audiences about that, the more I realize that it's a really powerful and underexplored idea. So let me just share with you some of the results of my ongoing research, and then I'll talk a little bit more about how tonight came to be. So this shale below our feet, our bedrock here in the Northeast, represents an old seafloor bottom from 400 million years ago. And that ocean existed at a particular time in the Earth's history when, there weren't animals with backbones yet. There weren't very many land plants yet. And so there wasn't, the atmosphere wasn't as oxygen rich as it is now. But nevertheless, this ocean teemed with life. It was full of squids and sea lilies. And when the bodies of those creatures died, instead of decomposing the way that would happen in our lakes and streams now, they turned into bubbles of methane. And then, because there was a powerful, large mountain range where the Catskill Mountains are now that eroded into this ocean, all the elements in that mountain range sifted down on top of all those bubbles. And mountains contain some pretty poisonous things, like uranium and strontium and barium and bromides, radium and so forth. And so all those heavy metals and radioactive elements also sifted down with all the silt, and then gradually, with lots of pressure, formed this layer of shale, which is suffused with a petrified fizz of bubbles that we call methane, aka natural gas. So that's the quarry that they're going after. It's a graveyard down there. And up until very recently, in the last 10 years, getting those bubbles out was not economically feasible. So it's only this form of fracking where you drill down and turn sideways and blow everything up that you can get those bubbles of gas to flow out. But there's another problem, and that is that the Marcellus Shale is not just a graveyard of ancient fossil organisms, it's also alive. It's a living ecosystem. And this is an idea, I think, that comes as new for most people. We might think of our mountaintops as living ecosystems and coral in the ocean, but we don't necessarily think of the underworld as alive. We tend to think of it as abiotic, as dead, inert. It's the geological world. But geologists now understand that actually most of the world's biomass by weight lies in the deep heart of the planet. So the biosphere, which we used to think was a surface phenomenon, actually goes very far down, at least a couple miles down. So there are living creatures down there in the shale with all these heavy metals and irradiation and methane. And we don't know a lot about these relic organisms, but what we do know is that if you want to get the gas out, you have to kill them off. Otherwise, they form complex colonies, and the word the industry uses is that they're responsible for biofouling. So they will grow inside the pipes and interfere with the flow of gas. So that's one of many reasons fracking is so toxic, because you're actually having to lay down a barrage of pesticides and kill off this living ecosystem in order for the gas to come out. And so I often talk to my audiences as I travel around, and I just came back from Salt Lake City today, and I was in Iowa before that. Can anyone think of an example of an ecosystem on which we've laid down a barrage of poisons and there wasn't some unintended consequences for us? So I'm going to continue this kind of research. This is new for me. Geologists call this deep life, and there's a whole field of study called geomicrobiology it's the study of deep life organisms, and this has now become the research for my next book, which took me this summer out to Yellowstone National Park, because that's one of the few places in the world where the magma under the Earth's surface is so close to the surface that you have all these geyser pools. So organisms that are normally found thousands of feet below are now at the surface. And so you can wander like Orpheus in the underworld, looking at all these bubbling pools of sulfur, and look at these what are called extremophiles. And of course they're beautiful, right? Which is why those pools in Yellowstone have names like Crystal Geyser, Emerald Pool, Sapphire Lake, and so forth. And they're complex. Even though they're multicellular, they form, just like coral does, complex colonies. Some of them are flat sheets, some of them are tassels, some of them kind of roll up into tubes, and so forth. And so I began the biological study and actually could see what normally to us here is entirely invisible. And so my task as a writer is to make visible with language an ecosystem that nobody has seen, not even those who seek to blow it up and get the gas out, not even the geologists who are the experts about it. We can't have a Hubble telescope and look down there, but I have come to believe that our well-being here on the sunlit surface of the Earth is connected to the well-being of and the integrity of the Marcellus Shale. And that will become the book that I write next. All right, so this summer I was out west, walking around in Yellowstone, learning about these organisms, and also visiting places where fracking has occurred, all the way from Oklahoma, New Mexico, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, and so forth. And as you might expect, there's no community that's overjoyed about it. There's some that feel like it's inevitable and there's nothing they can do, and they're totally sunk in resignation about it. But nobody was happy, and most communities I talked to and sat down with different mayors and biologists and ranchers, the message was, this is really horrible, and we didn't know, we thought we could somehow regulate it, but you can't regulate this industry once they're in some cases in Montana, the oil and gas industry has been sued multiple times for various violations, and the lawsuits were won by the grassroots groups, but it didn't make any difference. And so the feeling was, if you have a chance to stop it, you should. And so here we are in New York, the one state that has a chance to stop it, and we should, in the middle of this great fight. So I feel that the whole rest of the United States and people who have seen the damage are really wishing us well in this fight. That was the message I got. Well, in the midst of all this, while I was in Utah, I got a phone call from the Heinz Family Foundation letting me know that I had won I was one of the lucky recipients of the Heinz Award for 2011 for this trilogy of books I've written on environmental health. And it comes with a $100,000 unrestricted cash prize. So that was the day I was going out into the desert, which was kind of the perfect thing to do when you get news like that. You kind of have to go out in the wilderness and the desert and kind of take it all in. So the kind of time-honored thing that most scholars and scientists who win the Heinz Award do with it, and I do know a few of my friends who have gone before me in winning this prestigious honor, they usually use it to fund their own research and go in directions with their writing and their research that might be hard to get grants to do. And so that was the first thing that came to my mind too, all the different ways I could spend this and how it was going to make my life easier. But while I was out there studying fracking and thinking out in the desert, a couple of things came to my mind. And one were the words of Timothy DeChristopher, who is the anti-fracking University of Utah grad student who was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for actively disrupting the leasing of public lands to the oil and gas industry in southern Utah. And he succeeded in doing that. Turns out the leasing of those lands were illegal in the first place, and his actions actually did stop and prevent the fracking. But the way he did it was to bid and outbid the oil and gas industry in the auction without the millions of dollars in his bank account to back up the bids, which is fraudulent. And so even though subsequently those auctions were declared illegal, the charges continued. So I actually was at the courthouse on July 26 when he was sentenced to 2 years, and the thing that he said to the judge was, "This is what love looks like." And so I thought about that a lot while I was out in the desert. And then I thought about something else, which is that in December 2010, when I was first getting involved in fracking and beginning to speak in public fora, I was invited to a kind of a teach-in in my own home community, Trumansburg, in the town of Ulysses. One of the people I was speaking with two of the people I was speaking with were Craig and Julie Sotner from Dimmick, Pennsylvania, who had come up and they rode in the back of the car with me to the forum. And Craig looked out at this land that's so familiar to me, where I live when raising my family, and he said, I'm quoting you, Craig, "You have such a pretty country, don't let them frack it." So these are the two sentences that are in my head out in the desert. This is what love looks like, don't let them frack it. And so by the time I hit Wyoming, I knew I was going to donate my Heinz Award money to the fight against fracking in New York State, emboldened by the way that Julie and Craig Sotner bear witness to the ruin of their land and their cautionary tale that they brought with their love to us in New York and the actions of love of Tim DeChristopher in Utah. I feel like I want to be one more link in this chain of people bearing witness to this and trying to stop it, and that I didn't want to study it, I wanted to stop it. So that just became really clear to me. So this is my chance now to actually announce how I spent this money. I have to say, it's really good that I made this announcement before I went down to Washington to get the check, because my credit union compelled me to keep the check in the bank, in my account for 10 days and let it clear before I could write checks against it. And it looked so good, I have to say. I've never seen that much money next to my name before. And I thought, well, this is the thing, right? People in upstate New York, they're written checks, big checks by the oil and gas industry. It looks really good in exchange for complicity and silence. So what if I did the reverse gesture? What if I took a big check, pushed it out into the community in exchange for talking and conversation and action? So that's the hope here. So here's what I did. I got lots of advice. People even showed up on my porch and had ideas for me about what I should do with this money. so obviously, I guess you've heard that I gave some of the money to the architects of tonight's event, the Finger Lakes Clean Waters Initiative, and that was a really easy decision. Chris Tate and John McNamara understand the power of the arts, especially music, and how it can open our hearts and bring us all together. I mean, I'm an author, and I like big, full houses to do book signings in. I am never going to get the audience that Natalie Merchant can get. I mean, music has this power to bring so many people together and give us theme songs for our work and kind of inform what we're doing. And so Chris and John are kind of geniuses at that, and I really admire the work they're doing with this kind of events-based public education. So I just wanted to be part of that. So some of the money brought this event to being. So I'm just this is a kind of a real inaction of what happened with the money. So it's a really special night for me. Some of the money went to the expenses of the self-organized public hearing on the S-Geist that we held in Ithaca. Some went to the anti-fracking movement's investigative branch, toxic targeting, overseen by that street-fighting man, Walter Hang. Some went to the nonprofit legal shop overseen by David and Helen Slotchy, the two brilliant attorneys who helped draft all these great local bands that now kind of form this very mighty network of resistance. And some went to Gas Free Seneca, the heroic group that is fighting plans to industrialize the shores of Seneca Lake. That's where my son was born, so I have a really personal connection there. And when I conclude here, I'm going to ask Yvonne Taylor to kind of come up and give you an update on that situation, because it's in a kind of a perilous situation. And some of the money went to my own town, Ulysses, to help with the cost of an amicus brief in defense of our sister town, Dryden, when it was sued by the Anschutz Energy Company. And we won, right? We won, yeah. And then finally, there's a project still to come that will be announced in the weeks to come that we're not quite ready to unveil. But I'm very excited about it, and it represents a kind of big coming together of a lot of different anti-fracking work, which we hope will be a kind of galvanizing happening. So stay tuned for more. So thanks. I'll be talking a little bit more in between the musical sets inside, but not tonight about the endocrine disruptive effects of glutaraldehyde and its effect on preterm labor or something like that. I'm not talking tonight on all the usual stuff I do. Tonight's a celebratory night. Tonight is a chance to recruit new people who are just walking into the middle of the movie here and want to get started. So please, those of you who have been in this fight now going on 4 years, reach out to the new folks who are here for the music but may leave wanting a role in the orchestra, wanting something to do. So feel free to recruit them, give them direction, help them find their place in the movement. So with that, Yvonne, would you kind of come up and let folks know what's happening in Seneca? Oh, there you are. Good.
Hello, I'm Yvonne Taylor, and I'm one of the co-founders of Gas Free Seneca. My partner here is Joseph Campbell. He's also a co-founder. I want to thank Sandra Steingraber for all of her great work and her incredible generosity. The issue that Sandra is referring to in terms of Gas Free Seneca, Energy Corporation is a Kansas City-based company that has been buying up assets all over central New York with the intention of turning us into the gas storage and transportation hub of fracked gas and methane from the Marcellus and the Utica Shale, with Seneca Lake at the epicenter of all of this. And we are days away from the DEC making their final determination on this facility. So Sandra's help is greatly appreciated, and we also need tens of thousands of more dollars because we are anticipating a long and drawn-out legal battle if we stand a chance to protect the Finger Lakes region in central New York from this. And the point I also want to make is that we've been doing a good job of creating awareness about fracking. And even if we don't get a state ban on fracking in New York, we, I think, now have 82 different municipalities throughout the state who have individually created bans on fracking, which is a wonderful thing. However, it would be tragic if we were successful in keeping fracking out of New York State, only to become the fracked gas storage and transportation hub for the northeastern United States. We can't allow that to happen. The two are indefinitely connected, and I urge all of you to go to gasfreeseneca.com to learn more, and please help us out. Thank you so much.
Now I want to introduce to you Craig and Julie Sotner from Dimmick, Pennsylvania, our heroes.
Hi, everybody. We're the Sotners from Dimmick. Everybody knows where Dimmick is now. I mean, it's pretty bad there, and we're still waiting for test results to come back from the EPA. That's going to be, you know, it's going to set it one way or the other, I guess, even though we still do have contaminated water, and it's going on, it's 3.5 years. I think tomorrow will be 3.5 years since we've been contaminated. Now, this isn't just an isolated incident. This is popping up all over the place. Like Matt was saying, in Franklin Forks over there. I mean, the gas is spewing out of the wells and everything. You got other places in Pennsylvania, Susquehanna County, Bradford County. I mean, this is going rampant, and this is no good. We can't let this happen anymore. I mean, New York State, you've kept it out of here so far. Hopefully, you can keep it out of here longer. You don't want them in here because you don't want to destroy the countryside. Like we said before, it's so pristine and everything. Once you go so far, there's no turning back. And we're all in this together. It's not just us or just you guys or whatever. We're all in this together. We got to think about the kids, our grandkids. What are they going to have to look forward to later on in life? I mean, you guys don't want any of this. And I've offered it to the gas companies. I've offered it to the DEP. They will not take a drink of it. Why not? They say it's fine. There's nothing wrong with the water. They threaten me with arrest if I call them up one more time. Well, they're not going to shut me up. They're never going to shut me up. So this concert is all about unity tonight. We're all in this together, and let's give it to them, okay?
Okay, enjoy the show, recruit some new folks, and this is what love looks like, right? Thank you.